Is recording.
Okay.
There you go. Perfect.
All right.
All right. So we'll start with that's good. Just tell me your name.
It's Ron Vickroy.
What branch were you in the?
I was in the United States Air Force.
And then where did you serve?
Well, I started off by going to the United States Air Force Academy in 1967, and that's where I took the oath of office. I spent 4 years there, graduated, and went into helicopter training actually out of the United States Air Force Academy. And I think I was telling you earlier, there's 3 reasons why I decided to go helicopters. One was I felt like, very definitely I wanted to go to.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. Very definitely I wanted to go to astronaut training. Secondly, it was $25 a day TDY. And third, very definitely you got guaranteed fixed wing assignment. So anyway, I went to Fort Walters, Texas. And then from there I went to Fort Rucker, Alabama for IFR training. And then from there to Hill Air Force Base in Utah. And then finally wound up with an assignment at Phoenix Air Force Base, at Luke Air Force Base, in Phoenix, Arizona. And then in 1974, I was asked to go overseas to Nakhon Phanom Royal Thai Air Base, which is located just along the Mekong River, just outside of northeastern part, I think, of Thailand.
So let's step back a couple years. And before, at what point did you decide you wanted to join the military?
I didn't have any desire to join the military, actually. I decided I was going to go to school. And my dad said, well, you're going to have to make your own way, boy. And I said, I understand that. He said, and I'm not going to have to pay for you. And I said, I know that. So I got a Naval ROTC scholarship. I got an appointment to the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs in 1967. Now, I graduated in 1966. So what did I do for a year? I don't know. I worked around, messed around, taking care of pipes here locally. What do you call it? Water pipes or something like that? Something like that. Anyway, I did some of that for about a year. And then secondly, I applied to the academy, and I got a job. I got an opportunity to go to Millard Preparatory School out in Oregon, Bandon, Oregon. That's where the golf course is now, Bandon Dunes. Anyway, I didn't know this. So at the time, I can recall quite vividly my mother crying whenever I got the telegram that said, hey, you're going to the academy. This was in the spring of 1967. So prior to that, 1966, the reason I didn't get in the academy, our Congressman Saylor, went on what they call a primary alternate nomination component. You familiar with that?
Somewhat.
Well, primary alternate basically resulted in he would say who the primary candidate is. If you met all the minimums, you were in. Well, as it turns out, I was not the primary nominee. I was like the second or third alternate. As it turns out, I did not meet the minimum requirements. More specifically, my scholastic aptitude tests were too low. So they were like 1280. So they sent me to prep school following this in 1967. 1966, I guess it was September to March of 1967. Something like that, February 1967, out in the West Coast, as far west as you can go. I can remember my mom telling me, hey, you're going to hop in a train, you're going to go west, you're going to go to Portland. Be careful whenever you go through Union Station. I was scared to death. I'd never been further west than Pittsburgh. And here I was going to Bandon, Oregon, about as far west as you can go, about 3,000 miles. As it turns out, it wasn't as bad as it seemed. And while I was there, I can recall my uncle Lee. As a matter of fact, I think you did a little presentation with him earlier. He had said to me, or I'd said to him, I said, Uncle Lee, I said, you're going to take care of me whenever I come back. And he said, yeah, I'll take care of you. Well, as it turns out, I sent my dad a note at Christmas time. I said, hey, Dad, I'd like to come back at Christmas. He goes, hey, join the how do you put it? He said something about Lewis and Clark expedition, sleep under the stars. You'll get a real experience out of this. Like, oh my God, I'm going to be the only one going to be left on campus here at Millard Prep School. Well, my uncle came through with a ticket, so I hopped a train and came back to Johnstown. And so it was nice in that respect.
Why the Air Force?
Why the Air Force? I guess the congressman had told me he said there's more airplanes in the Army than there is in the Air Force. I said, really? He says, yeah. He says, I can give you an appointment to the Naval Academy, Annapolis, or I can give you an appointment to West Point. I said, no, I want to go to the Academy. Like a dummy, I said, I want to go to the Air Force Academy. He said, okay. So I did. And that was it. I mean, I had no reason. I had no fundamental reason as to why the Air Force, to answer your question. And the previous question was why the service? I had no desire to go into the service at all.
What about flying? Did you?
Nope. No desire to fly either. I had no. Well, I take that back. I had an uncle who was a navigator on board a B-17 in Italy during World War II. He subsequently passed, but anyway, he was a great guy. He took me up. He got his private pilot's license. He took me up as a kid, and that's all I recall about flying. Period. So I don't have any experience flying. I don't have any desire to go to military. I didn't go to the Air Force or fly. Either one of the three.
So when you started this, what was your like? What did you?
I was going to get my degree. And they were going to pay for it. That being the government, and they were going to give it to me a nickel at a time. I knew that, up the butt. That's how it was.
So you joined the academy. You entered the academy in '67, right when the Vietnam War was really starting to.
Yes. That was during the draft period, and I can recall a lot of my friends being drafted. John Alamo here in town was killed while he was overseas. There was a couple other people that were drafted. And as it turns out, I think 68, 69 was the first draft cycle. I can't recall anymore. Anyway, was it earlier?
It might have been maybe 67. I honestly couldn't
67? Might have been 67. Might have been 60. But anyway, I entered this service in June of 1967. And it had no impact, but although I would have had a relatively low number. I know that much. I would have had like 42 or something like that. So I'd have probably been drafted if I hadn't been in college, and I'd have probably been in college, so I'd have got a deferment.
Did you think, since you went, I mean, obviously going to the Air Force Academy, you're beginning to enter the military, did you expect to go to war?
No, absolutely not. I expected to do a little bit of training. Big man on campus is what I was in high school. I mean, at 18 years old, you don't think about that kind of stuff.
You just kind of figured it's not going to hit. I'll be able to get past it. And
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. The Vietnam War will be over by the time I'm done. 4 years, I'll be finished. As it turns out, it wasn't over. Obviously, it wasn't over until, 1975? 1975, I think, was the last major battle, which is USS Miguez. Anyway.
What's academy life like?
Oh, God. You would have to ask me that question, Andy. Academy life was very difficult the first 2 years. The first year I wanted to leave. Every 5 minutes I wanted to leave. Every day I wanted to leave. As a matter of fact, I talked in 3 of my roommates into leaving. I started off with advanced calculus. I started with advanced calculus. I had engineering class. I had an advanced English class, all predicated upon my stellar high school education. As it turns out, I managed to get a C- or a C in a computer class. I thought it was the end of my life. It was introductory as algo computers, so that tells you way back. It was punch card type system. Anyway, as I recall, I did not do well in calculus. And I remember talking to the professor, and I remember talking to my roommate. I said, Frank Broyles is his name. He subsequently left, went to University of Missouri at Rolla, was an engineer. Subsequently passed. I followed him on Facebook. Anyway, just to pass this along to people who are out there. Technology is great stuff. Anyway, back to what happened the first term. The first term while I was there, I decided I was going to be an aeronautical engineer. I didn't become an aeronautical engineer. I became a geographer. I became economic geography. But I graduated first in my class. Anyway, back up a few minutes. Let's go back up a few years. Let's go back up to the first year at the academy when I wanted to leave all the time. And I said that my degree was very, very difficult to attain. They were coming over, they were talking to you all the time. You had military expectations expected of you. I think I graduated with 180 some credits, 179 credits. And I think the normal student takes about 120, at least 120 credits to get a Bachelor of Arts degree. We had a Bachelor of Science degree, so we had like 30 or 40 credits in engineering. Anyway, so here I am. I'm taking calculus. I've got doing squared. They asked me to do it was terrible. The first couple of years were terrible. I wanted to leave every other minute. Every other minute. As I mentioned before or earlier, I talked 3 of my roommates into leaving. As it turns out, the second year, my dad, I remember calling my dad. I said, Dad, I want to leave so bad. He goes, just stick it out 1 year. We'll see how it is. So I stuck it out a year. Yeah, and then I wanted to leave the second year. Yeah, let's stick it out another year. Okay. Second year was much better. And then, of course, my junior and senior year were fantastic. Fantastic.
Did you have to enlist? Did you have to take an oath?
Oh, yes. You had to take an oath of office when you first went in. And actually, if you left prior to your end of your sophomore year, you actually were going into the service. You're going to go in the Air Force, one or the other. So, now, as I understand it today, that's not necessarily the case. You know, that's what I understood today anyway. Someone told me that.
I honestly couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I don't know. I'd have to look into that. So, at what point then in your school and in your time at the academy do you make the determination I'm a pilot, I'm going to do this?
It's not until your senior year that you actually, do the drawing. You actually play bingo, so to speak, and you get down to this big hall. All the seniors are there, and you draw numbers. And the lower the number you have, the better chance you're going to pick the Air Force base you go to, not the aircraft you're going to fly necessarily. They'll make that determination, or you'll make that determination as a result of how well you do during your flight training. So if you graduate first in your class, you might get, fighter aircraft. Most people expected fighter aircraft. Other people went to B-52s. They went to B-52s, which still happens to be in the inventory today. But interestingly enough, at the time, guys were flying B-52s, 135s, only because they had plans on going commercial following their stint in the Air Force. As it turns out, I decided I was going to go helicopters. The reason I was going to go helicopters, even though I had a low number, I think I mentioned to you earlier.
Why? What made you choose flying at all?
Well, if you're either going to go in the Air Force, you're going to go in as a pilot, or you're going as Jack, as they said. Jack something. I'll leave it go at that.
Fair enough. So after graduation, you commission, and then you
Fort Walters, Texas.
Okay.
Fort Walters, Texas, we went with VFR training, and then what they call visual flight rules. Then I went to instrument flight rules training at Fort Rucker, Alabama. Then for some crazy reason, they decided they were going to put us through Air Force training, the same helicopter. We were flying Hueys at the time out of Hill Air Force Base in Utah. And then from there down to my end assignment, which was Luke Air Force Base in Phoenix, Arizona. I was down there for 2.5 years, I think. 71, 72, about 2.5 years. And it was there that a good friend of mine decided we were going to go to Vietnam. And I said, okay. Sure enough, I got these orders that said, you're going to Vietnam. And I said, which squadron? Oh, you're going to the 40th Air Rescue and Recovery Squadron. I said, okay, no problem. Well, I get up there to Hill Air Force Base. We went to Phoenix, went to Hill Air Force Base again. And they said at Hill, we're going to change your orders. I said, we are. Yeah, you're going to fly. You're going to transition to 53s. We're going to transition you into 21st Special Operations Squadron. 21st Special Ops, yeah. And you're going to be part of the 56th Special Operations Wing. I said, okay. Well, interestingly enough, while I was at Luke, I'll just, if you don't mind, I'll just go by the side here for a minute. While I was at Luke Air Force Base, I managed to get some instructor time, which was very helpful to me going forward. And so I volunteered for a lot of stuff. I did a lot of flying while I was there. So I had about 400 or 500 hours going into Hill Air Force Base. When I was there, I went through the transition, all that kind of stuff. Went to 56th Special Operations Wing, 21st Special Operations Squadron in Phnom. And that's it, as of now. Go ahead.
So when you found out you're going to Vietnam,
mm-hmm.
what goes through your head? What do you think?
Well, I was a little shook. Obviously, although this was quote unquote after the fact of Vietnam, at least the Vietnam War, so to speak. So I give all the guys that were on the ground over there, I give the helicopter pilots who were there so much credit. I mean, it's incredible what they did. I mean, totally incredible what they were able to pull off in 1 year of service. Anyway, so I was a little bit shook. But as when I got over there, I ran into a guy, who was a special forces guy. His name was Canavan. His name was Captain William Canavan. He goes, "Hey, Bill." I said, "Hey, Bill, how you doing?" We BS'd a while. He goes, "Ron, if you weren't here, you'd be trying to get here." I said, "You're right. You're right, man." I'll let it go at that.
All right.
But I was scared, yeah.
So you're 22, 23 now?
Yeah, about that.
What's your first memories of Vietnam? What's it like when you first get there?
When you first got there, they talked a lot about being short. I don't know if they told you this earlier. But anyway, being short meant you had a few days left. So we landed, we circled around North Nakhon Phanom, and in this C-130 aircraft, looking out the window. And these guys are down there, and it's all encased with barbed wire around it. And we land and get out, and here comes this little truck up. Colonel Cruz is the guy who was in charge then. He comes up and he goes, "Hey, Lieutenant Vickroy." I said, "Yeah." And that was just me. It was Lieutenant Hall. There was about 3 or 4 of us that were landing at the time, or came down at the same time, or entered at the same time. And he goes, "How short are you?" And I said, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about, short?" That's what I'm thinking to myself. What's he mean by short? He goes, "Short." And I go, "No, sir, I don't." He said, "Well, I'm real short." He says, "I only have 28 days. And some guy stood up and he goes in the back, goes, "I'm very short." He says, "I only got 4 days. I go, "Oh, you mean by that? I guess I have 365 days." He goes, "Yeah." He said, "You are a long boy. You're a long boy." Well, they actually had these actually, there were green name tags, like Lieutenant Short, Captain Short, Major Short. Yeah. So you walk around and you say, "Hey, is he Lieutenant Short?" No, he's not Lieutenant Short. It means he's short. It means he has a few days left.
He's going home soon.
So we land. They take me down to the hooch in this van. They take me down to the hooch, and they said, drop off your suitcase and stuff, your B4 bag. So I dropped it off, and that's all I remember actually. And from there, I woke up the next day, that evening or whenever it was. I was in a brothel. I really was, honest to God. Anyway, I remember we were drinking a lot, did a lot of drinking, and we came back to the room, or to the hooch area, and we actually had a Thai guy who was in charge of the hooch, 21st Special Operations Squadron hooch. It was a big bar, and had 2 sabers across it. That was the name of our squadron. We were called the Knife Squadron. The Knife Squadron. Yeah, knives. Anyway, this guy, I'm trying to remember his name. Anyway, I think his name started with an H. Starts with an H, like Hick or something like that. Anyway, he was in charge of the entire bar. He handled the whole entire bar operation for us. This was good. It didn't cost us a penny, because he was just working there for a couple bucks or something like that. It didn't cost me anything. And the money that we were using in terms of profits was paying his way while he was there. That's basically it. I mean, the first couple of days I was there, it was just crazy times. Crazy times.
You didn't actually start doing missions or anything for a while.
No. There were 3 primary missions we had. One was Vientiane, the evacuation take that back, 4 of them. One was Vientiane, the evacuation of Vientiane in Laos. I can't remember the code name for that. The other was the evacuation of Phnom Penh, which was called Eagle Pool. The third was the evacuation of Saigon, or now it's called Ho Chi Minh City. It's called Frequent Wind. And the 4th mission that we had was what they call night recce, or night reconnaissance. We flew around the base just to make sure there was no unfriendlies trying to get in. That was it.
So you were basically, as opposed to a Huey pilot who was doing daily runs into the bush, you really were there to for these, you ended up doing these 3 primary missions.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. As a matter of fact, the first mission, Vientiane, the one I talked about earlier, never came off. The second one was Eagle Pool, which was basically the Marines. That was their baby. We supported the Marines. We flew down there. I was scared to death, to be honest with you. We flew down there about 5,000 or 6,000 feet, turned around and came back. I said, what's going on? Well, we're just there to show support for the Marines. So that's all they said. It was a Marine operation, but actually we were Air Force aircraft in the air. We were special operations. The next one was frequent wind.
So what happened to that first mission then? Why was that scrapped?
I don't know, other than the Marines knew they were taking they were landing at a stadium, I think, the football stadium or soccer stadium or something like that in Phnom Penh. They were taking the individuals directly out to the aircraft, and so out to the aircraft carriers. So they wanted to land them on American soil. I said, okay. And then we just flew overhead for them and turned around and come home.
So I guess in terms of the larger scope, did the United States kind of realize at this point we need to start getting people out of this country?
Oh yeah. Vietnam specifically, because in the early spring of 1975, I think it was 1975. Yeah, spring of 1975, they actually started. North Vietnamese came. I don't know when they attacked, whether it was in the fall or it was in February of 1975. Anyway, they came down the coast of Vietnam, and people were just going crazy down there. They showed us films while we were up there at the Nakhon Phanom. They showed us films of what was happening over there. And Graham Martin, I believe, was the ambassador to Vietnam at the time. And Graham Martin, he was very reluctant to let anybody go. So a lot of individuals were leaving via fixed wing, etc. And actually, helicopter evacuation was something of a last resort. At any rate, these people were coming off of helicopters. They were trying to get on airplanes. You've probably seen some of the movies or some of the TV shows, documentaries, where they're actually individuals that are trying to push out of the aircraft. Oh, it's incredible. I mean, there were so many that were getting on board the aircraft, they were actually weighing down helicopters because so many people were hanging on to ropes and stuff like that. It's incredible.
So what were you guys doing day to day? Did you know that the evacuation of Saigon would be on this date? Did you know these things, or you just
No, you didn't know. You didn't know when they were going to occur. You just hoped that they didn't occur while you were there for the year. As it turns out, it did. While I was there, as a matter of fact, all of them turned out while I was there, including my Giz incident. Even though I was overseas, I was back here in the United States on leave during the My Giz incident. Prior to that, the Vientiane thing never came off. Eagle Pool I was involved in, and frequent wind I was involved in. But this was not until the April of 1975. And in April of 1975, they were talking across. I remember sitting in the officers' club, and they're coming across the intercom, and they're saying, oh yeah, so-and-so. Oh, all pilots now report to 21st Special Operations pilots report to your barracks. That scared me to death. So I thought, I wonder what's going on. So we head on back to the barracks, and then they say, then there was these intercom announcements. Says, come on up to the squadron. So we went up to the squadron, and here was the lieutenant colonel. This time it was Colonel Denham. The previous squadron commander had left. He said, okay, everybody take a 35. And I said, what do you mean a 35? You mean a 38 pistol? And I said, for what? He said, well, we're going on this evacuation. I said, what evacuation? He said, evacuation of Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City. I said, you got to be kidding me. Nope. Hang on one second, sir. Sounds like a phone. That must have been my wife. Anyway, so here we are. And we're up in, let me see, up in Nakhon Phanom, Thailand. Yeah. I'm trying to recall now. So he said, we're going to go. Well, here I was an instructor pilot. As I told you earlier, I had some instructor hours. They were looking for somebody to fly as an instructor. I said, well, I was the only person there. Even though I was a lieutenant, they promoted me to a major's position. Or I got into a major's position, even though I was a lieutenant. And this was kind of cool. I said, yeah, I'll go ahead and take it. So actually, I was apart from the squadron, but at the same time, I was a member of the squadron, if you can follow this whole mess. Anyway, off they go to Saigon, or they're going to go down to Bangkok. That's what it was. They're going to refuel at Bangkok, and they're going to depart from Bangkok, or Utapao Air Base, which is outside of Bangkok. So we landed in Bangkok, myself and a good friend of mine, and another aircraft landed, and it was like 12, 13 aircraft on the ground. And all of a sudden, here comes Colonel Denham. He goes, "Hey, Ron." I said, "Yeah." He says, "You're not going." I said, "That's okay, no big deal." He says, "You and Joe Miano," who was the other guy, was going to stay behind. He was another instructor pilot. I said, "No problem." I said, "You guys are going to go?" "Yeah, we're going to take off, 10 aircraft." And they left the next morning. So that night we sat there and drank beer, and we played a little bit of, what do you call it, shuffleboard, hockey, whatever the heck it was. I can recall that. It was a nice hockey board. Anyway, we're sitting there, and finally they decided, "Hey, you guys are going to have to go. You 2 helicopters are going to be needed on USS Midway." "Are we?" "Yeah, we're going to join the rest of the squadron." "Okay, good. So we're going to give you the down and dirty communications spiel we gave your squadron." I said, "Okay." So we're going to this meeting, and this guy proceeds to go like this and this. And I said, "Oh, that's cool. Off we go." So off we take off. Now, we have no radar control. We take off at about 500 feet, 600 feet. I'm lead aircraft. This guy's second one. Come in. We run right. What do? We run right into weather, right off the coast of Cambodia, I believe, or somewhere down that area. Anyway, we run into this weather, and procedures we had in place was he banks to the right and I bank left. I descend, he ascends, and we do one of these jobs, and we keep the same heading. As it turns out, we break out of these clouds. I'm about 50 feet off the water. Of course, we had a radar altimeter. He's about 300 feet off, but I thought we were on a collision course. I said, "Come on, Joe, you know better than that." Anyway, we hooked up, and we headed on into the Sea of China, Bangkok Sea, somewhere off Vung Tau, I think it was, not too far from Saigon. And we land on board the USS Midway during a rainstorm. So the guys on the ship go, Knife 27, that was my call sign, Knife 27 and Knife 21. "Yes, sir. Flight of 2 aircraft inbound." "Okay, cool." He goes, we're gonna bring you in via radar." I said, "That's cool." And so I said, "You see those guys out there, Joe?" "Yeah." So we made this turn, and we landed. Sure enough, we pulled up, and these guys, the first time we ever landed on a helicopter or on an aircraft carrier. It was pretty cool. But we did make a running landing as opposed to hover landing. And these guys come up, they chalked us up and all that kind of good stuff. Get out of the air. So here I'm carrying my B4 bag again. This Navy guy goes, "Come on, sir." "Okay." So off we go. This guy was enlisted. He took me around this damn aircraft carrier about 4 or 5 times, as well as Joe Miano. About the 3rd time around, I go, "Hey, I think I saw those pictures before." He goes, "Yeah, that's off. Oh, about time you figured this out. About time you figured it out." So then he took me into this little room, this bedroom, where we stayed the night, and we played a lot of. I can remember playing a lot of AC/DC for about 3 or 4 days. All the while, we're concerned about going into Saigon. Every day we had briefings. Every day we had this fake. What do you call it? Fake drill or something like that. Ruga, one of those things like you see on TV. Ruga, you guys are going to have to get it, good. So we get up there in the aircraft, brief the crew and all that kind of good stuff. The resultant effect was, "Hey, you stand down. So I remember laying on deck. I remember catching rays and all that kind of good stuff. It's kind of neat. As it turns out, one day, it's about 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock in the afternoon, yeah, as I recall now. It was around 11 o'clock, or maybe earlier. I mean, it was closer to 8, 9 o'clock in the afternoon. 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock, late morning. Anyway, he comes up with this drill thing again. Ruga. So we go up there, we land the aircraft, and I start the aircraft up, and I figured they're going to tell me to turn it down. They shut it down. They don't tell me to shut it down. So I'm sitting there with the aircraft, I'm talking to my co-pilot, and my engineer's back here. I got 2 gunners hanging out the side. I got another guy in the back. 5 of us in the aircraft, 4 or 5 of us, maybe 5, 6 of us. Anyway, as it turns out, this guy says to me, this is what they call the air boss on board an aircraft carrier. He goes, "Knife 27. I go, "Yes, sir." He goes, "You stand by." I said, "Yes, sir." So I just got the aircraft running. About this time, here comes this helicopter. It comes flying in. And it lands right next to our chopper. He gets out. The guy gets out. I'm looking at this guy. I'm thinking, I know this guy. He's Vietnamese, Lieutenant Colonel. Here was Lieutenant Colonel Nugent Cao Ky, who was a vice president at the time. He has on this silver scarf. He has on pearl-handled pistols like what's his name? Patton. And he's carrying 2 valises. He's got on a big ascot. And Marines were there to escort him right below decks. I come to find out later that the valises were full of gold. Yeah, gold, that's what it was. Anyway, so they go down below, and then they go, all pilots report below decks immediately to the interrogation room. I go, oh, God, this is not good. So we leave there and went down to the interrogation room, or the intel room. That's what it was, not interrogation room, intel room. And the priest gets up, he gives us last rites. I'm thinking, oh, my God, this is not good. Not good. And they said, we expect 50% of you to come back, and they're going to explain the conditions. And I'm scared to death right now. Let me tell you, I'm really scared. And they proceeded to tell us about the conditions in Vietnam, what's happening in Saigon, what's happening in Ho Chi Minh City at the time. And the SA-7 missiles was a big threat. They said friendlies are basically turning against us because we're trying to pull people out. It's chaotic. Police is on fire. Ton Sun's on fire. Yada, yada, yada. I said, why'd they wait to the last minute to call us in there? Anyway, they said, go back up and brief your crews. You're going to be taking off here in about an hour. You're only going to make 1 trip in, 1 trip out. I said, okay, cool. So off we go. I go up to the crew. I tell them, I said, now, if anybody tries to get in this airplane, you make sure, I'm talking to the crew chief now. I said, you go ahead and, we got a ramp on the back. It's hydraulically actuated. I said, you go ahead and haul that ramp up. He said, what if there's people in between? I said, I'll tell you when to do it. He said, okay. I said, well, there's people going to probably die as a result of this. So we're going to make 1 trip in. Off we go. Finally take off. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon now. Yeah, I think it's around 1, something like that. Anyway, and we're a flight of 2 aircraft, 3 aircraft, I don't know, 3 or 4 aircraft. I'm the lead. We get up and we got 4 or 5 radios going on at the same time. Now my co-pilot was a guy named Denny Danielson. I've been trying to get a hold of this guy forever. I just can't find him. Anyway, I remember briefing the crew. I'm telling them about 1 trip in, 1 trip out, and 50% chance we're going to make it. And I remember, well, the reason I'm giving you all this background information on Denny Danielson and briefing the crew was here we are. We've got about 6 or 7 radios that are going on at the same time. We've got a high-frequency aircraft, or high-frequency radio. We've got a VHF-1, VHF-2, Fox Mic 1, Fox Mic 2, intercom, and we have, I don't know, 6 or 7 radios. Anyway, I tell the guy, I said, now look, my co-pilot, I said, you monitor so-and-so radios, I'll monitor the others. He said, okay. He said, by the way, he says, Ron, you know where you're going with your life? I said, I have no clue. He said, when you die? I said, I don't worry about it. He said, well, I know exactly where I'm going. That scared me to death. Here was a guy that was telling me where he was going with his, if he died, you know. And I'm thinking, I don't have the slightest clue where I'm going. Anyway, that's a long story. So I come back to this. We take off. We haul up to the first aircraft we're talking to is an outfit by the name of Cricket. Cricket, that's the name of it. And they were in contact. It was C-135. They were in contact with the Pentagon back in the United States at the time. So Cricket goes, hey, I want you to go into holding pattern. So we go into holding pattern. In the meantime, we're talking on the HF radio with our squadron commander, Colonel Denham. He's back at Schoolboy, which is the name of the ship we were on, the USS Midway. CVA-42, I think it was, CVA-41, something like that. Anyway, he's on board HF. I got Fox Mike, I got the HF I'm talking to Cricket on. UHF, that was the other aircraft. That was the other type of radio. Anyway, so here we are, we're going to this holding pattern, according to Cricket. We go into holding pattern, he says, where I'm going to my co-pilot, says, now you estimate how much gas we need to get into the city and back out. And he proceeded to tell us, hey, you're going to land at Alamo. I go, we got Alamo, we got Cricket, we got, so many call signs, I can't even, code names, I can't even keep track of it. So anyway, we're writing all this stuff down. I'm writing all this stuff down. A lot of people say, how were you able to keep all this together? I said, it's all training. I'm telling you, man, it's all training. I mean, training just kicks in. You just focus on just doing your thing. So anyway, we did a trip around this holding pattern, I don't know, for about 20 minutes. And then we dumped gas, and they said, you're going into the Alamo. And we're going to have some couple Marine AH-1s, Cobras, and they're called Frito Banditos. The Fritos are going to help you in. I said, Fritos, what are you talking about? And they proceeded to tell me on the radio that they were actually escorts for me coming in 53s. So we go in as 53, and we get over this city of Ho Chi Minh City. Now it's like going to New York City or Pittsburgh or someplace like Philadelphia, Chicago, and looking down and saying, okay, you ever been here before? Nope. Okay. We want you to land at the commissary. I go, you got to be kidding me. So we start circling, and I said to this guy, my co-pilot, I said, you find the commissary yet? No. I'm looking. I said, well, keep looking. So he's looking at this map. Finally figures it out. Okay, we're such and such a place. We're at such and such altitude. I said, okay, we're going to corkscrew down. We're going to corkscrew down quickly. So we came down about 200 or something like that. We came straight down, and we landed at the commissary. Pretty cool. I mean, here's the Marines there. They got the band, striking up the band and all this kind of. They look great. And I think, what the heck's going on here? And they're counting people up. People are standing in line. They're all lined up. This is pretty nice. And they counted off the number of people who got in the aircraft. I think it was like 30. And at the end of 30, the Marines stopped the line, and that was it. We take off. And as we were taking off, I'm looking, oh my God, this is crazy, chaotic. People were trying to get into the embassy, and a guy started shooting at me with a 30 caliber machine gun across the street. I remember my gunner saying, "Can I hose him? Can I hose him?" I said, "No, you hold off," because our rules of engagement was you didn't shoot at anybody. So we took off, and we flew back to the schoolboy. And I'm thinking, wow, that's cool, man. In and out, no problem. I said, how many people got back? Everybody's getting back. Oh, that's cool. So we landed. Knife 27 for shutdown. I said, shut down number one engine. We shut down number one engine. We started number two. And they go, knife 27, yeah, keep it running, sir. I said, for what? Well, I'm going to have you back in. Okay, it's the second time we're going back in. Now it's about 3 or 4 o'clock, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And we go back in for the second mission. Go through the same scenario. We go to the holding pattern, and Cricket tells me, now I want you to land at, where was it, the commissary or one of these movie house or something like that. Okay, cool. So we went down and we landed, and we took off. We're on our way back. I said, man, that's great. This is awesome. This is pretty cool. So I gave it to the co-pilot. I said, go ahead and land it. So he landed it, and everything was great. Knife 27, yes, sir. Keep her running. I thought, just a second, we're going to go in. Yeah, we're going to go in a third time. So I turned to the crew, and I said, hey, you guys want to go in with me? Oh, yeah, they want to go in. So third time we went back in, and it was dark. It was like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And he said, we want you to land at these crossed headlights. Now, can you imagine? You're in New York City. You got 2 headlights down here. You got some bonfire. You're going to land these crossed headlights. I said, you got to be crazy. Well, we tried to land. There was somebody already in there. We pulled out. It's almost an accident. And then the Marines were flying lights out. Anyway, we come back. 5 times we were in there. 5 times. So we come back in. 4th time, let's keep it running. We went back in. This is like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm beat to death now. Finally, they called it off. And that was it. I went in, they debriefed us, and next morning we get up, all kind of people all over the place. I got some good stories for you if you want to hear them. Yeah. Okay. So the next morning I get up, and there's all kind of people all over the flight decks. All kind of Vietnamese, different foreign nationals, etc. I'm looking at these people and I'm thinking, wow, incredible. Anyway, they said, hey, Vickroy, yes, sir, you're going to drop off some of these people. We're going to take them out to various ships and drop them off. Okay. Okay, you're going to get your assignment when you go to Intel. So I went down to Intel, and sure enough, Intel said, you'll be flight 2 aircraft. You're going to be the lead aircraft, You're going to go out 25 miles to the USS Thompson. It's called Tight Spot Kilo. So I come up and brief the crew. We'll get everybody in the aircraft. There's like 30, I think they're all Vietnamese or foreign nationals. Anyway, we get in. About this time. Hey, Knife 27, this is Navy Helo 37. Yeah, go ahead, Navy Helo. Hey, Roger, sir, Tight Spot Kilo. Just be careful, pretty tight. I'm thinking, oh God, that's what I wanted to hear, Anyway, the guy says you're cleared to take off. So we take off, and we're flying TACAN at the time. Don't ask me what that, tactical navigation. 25 miles south. So we headed out 25 miles south. We get over this air. I'm looking down. I don't know anything about ships. They tell us boats, ships, It's like something in a circle. I think 25 miles, and I see all kind of boats around. So I start in this holding pattern at about 3,000. And I said to the guy via their radio, I said, Tight Spot Kilo, Knife 27. Roger, Tight Spot Kilo, sir. Say your intentions. Yes, sir, I'd like to land. Yes, sir, we have flight 2 aircraft. We're going to be landing. Yes, sir, stand by. Okay. So we stood by about 3 or 4 minutes. We were making these turns. This is not good. So I called him again. Tight Spot Kilo, Knife 27. Roger, Knife 27. Go ahead. Sir, we're trying to get into I don't know what they were trying to do. Anyway, he says, can you hang on a few more minutes? I said, sure. So we hung on a few more minutes, made a couple more turns. Finally, he goes, Knife 27, you're clear to land. I said, you got me in sight. Roger, sir. I said, okay, cool. We're coming down, and I'm looking at this this ship. I'm thinking, man, this doesn't look good. And all the Navy guys are doing this kind of stuff to them, And I wonder what the heck are they doing? I don't know. But they had these 4 aerials going up there, and mine started sweating. I got engineers, I got gunners hanging out the side of the aircraft, and they're going, okay, left, right, 1 foot. I'm going in, and I mean, this thing is bobbing, and the aircraft's turning. Anyway, we finally landed on this ace thing. But these Navy guys come on, they turn the aerials down. I said, why the hell did they do that in the first place? I don't know, sir. About this time, this guy gets on the radio. He goes, they want to know where we're from. I said, what the hell you mean where we're from? Tell them we're from Hong Kong. Where the hell do they think we're from? Okay, sir. So, we took off, and the other guy takes off. So I'm flying up he lands behind me, and I take off. I get about 2,000 feet, and they go, all Air Force aircraft return to base immediately. I go, what are they talking about? This is on Guard Channel. I'm looking, and all I saw was the sky was black, literally black, with helicopters all over the place. So we landed very quickly back at Schoolboy, 25 miles, about 10 minutes or something like that, 5 minutes. And they said, we got a couple aircraft that are coming in, and we don't know where to put them. This is what they're saying over the loudspeaker. The guys are saying, you got to be kidding me. No. About this time, helicopters started landing all over the place on board this aircraft carrier. And next thing you know, these Navy guys are going out there pushing helicopters. So come on, guys, so we go pushing helicopters. Finally, they said, clear the decks. So everybody gets below deck. They go, we got an aircraft, a fixed-wing aircraft. It was an 01 Bird Dog or something like that, was upstairs. It was flying, and they start buzzing the aircraft carrier. That's what it was. Yeah, they start buzzing the aircraft carrier. I was thinking, what's going on up here? About this time, they try to make contact with this guy, and he was a Vietnamese pilot. So a lot of guys were coming out from Vietnam. They were Vietnamese. There were 35 people in an airplane, a helicopter, or something like that, and they had no idea where they were going. They just knew that the fleet of the aircraft or ships were out there, so they were going to land. They were going to come out, and they're going to make their way. So anyway, this Midway pilot, or USS Midway pilot, he goes, or air boss, he goes, well, we've got a guy up there in the base. We tried to get a hold of him twice, and he only speaks Vietnamese. We got a Vietnamese pilot there. This is across the intercom now. So a guy goes up, he hops on, gets in the helicopter, calls this guy. Sure enough, he's up there, and he's flying this 01. He says, I only have enough fuel for one more pattern. He said, if I don't have enough fuel, he says, I'm going to crash this airplane into the USS Midway, CVA-41, into the aircraft carrier. So the guy said, well, why can't you land and we'll have helicopters pick you up? Or why can't you ditch it in the water? We'll have helicopters pick you up. He says, I can't. He says, I have my grandmother. I says, I have my daughter in here. She's age 2 months old or something. So anyway, this guy lands, and of course everybody's cheering down there. They're going, this is crazy. This is wild. He pulls right up to the base where he's supposed to, No tail dragger on it. He didn't catch any cable or anything like that. And they put all the APUs at the end of the deck, so he didn't go off. They pulled into the wind and he landed. Everybody's cheering. Anyway, we're below seas, we're below decks, and I'm talking to my wingman who landed at Tight Spot Kilo. He goes, "Hey, Vickroy." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "We were supposed to land at Tight Spot Kilo." I said, "I know." "We did land." He said, "No, we didn't." I said, "We didn't?" "No." He says, "We landed on USS Thomason." I said, "Okay, cool, whatever, you know." I said, you take care of your pet." He says, "Yeah, I landed. I took care of my passenger." "Okay, we left." I said, "That was tough getting into." He says, "I said, it was tougher getting into when you had the aerials up in the air." So here I am a year later. I'm back at Fort Rucker, Alabama. I'm going through Detachment 29, and I'm now an instructor pilot. I'm also a safety pilot. I'm looking at this Navy Safety magazine. And Navy Safety magazine is written by the former captain of the USS Thomason. And of course, this is interesting to me. And they're talking about the Vietnam War. And he goes on to say about this pilot from the Air Force, come out of nowhere, landed on his ship. He says, even in the face of people waving him off, and I'm thinking, waving him off? What the hell are they talking about, waving him off? Because the guy they didn't tell us anything about, we didn't have any sort of communications in between. He says, they're waving him off, and he goes out, he says, even with the aerials up, the guy lands the airplane. He says, only stretched for a 20,000 pounds, 42,000 pound aircraft. He lands on this sucker. And then he has the guts to tell us people are from Hong Kong. Anyway, we took off. So I kind of laughed at that. I wanted to respond to him, but I didn't. I said, but he had a need for joint services training, which I thought was very, very important in terms of communications between the services when we talk about special forces. So I think they have the Joint Special Forces Command or something like that now.
JSOC, yeah.
JSOC, yeah.
But why didn't they just call you on the radio and say, like, did you have communication with the ship? Couldn't that ship have said, wave off, don't come in?
Oh, they could have. Oh, you mean us? You mean as an aircraft? Or?
Well, as
Well, the guy landed us. He told us to go ahead and land. And then he feared me to take off. So they were playing games with us. I'll tell you a little bit more about it later, afterwards. But anyway, after this evacuation was over, we wound up going into Bangkok. Yeah. This is the squadron, Air Force squadron now. And I'm thinking, well, things are over. They have all these aircraft, these fighter aircraft that were flown out of Vietnam by single-engine pilots with their parents and their kids and all that kind of stuff in an aircraft, okay, about 2,000 feet above the ground, and they landed them. They said, "Anybody you guys here qualified to fly fixed wing?" I said, "No, nobody's here is qualified." "Well, you're going to have to carry them out and put them on U.S. soil then." "Oh, you got to be kidding me." So the whole squadron is involved in taking these aircraft out to the aircraft carrier. In the meantime, they're steaming towards the Philippine Islands. They turn this fleet around. They come back into the South China Sea. We come back into Bangkok, and we got these aircraft we're going to start taking. So I said to the engineer, I said, "How are you going to do this?" He said, "We're going to have to sling them." I said, "What do you mean sling them?" He said, "We're going to let them hang down below." I said, "Do you have the equipment to do that?" He said, "Well, just jerry rig it." I said, "Okay." Sure enough, they jerry rigged it. And I can remember my good friend, Jim Case. Knife 2.6. He goes, I go, knife 2.6, knife 2.7. "Roger, sir." What happened was he took the aircraft up about 25 feet in the air, and I'm watching this aircraft. He's pulling it up. Everything's fine. About this time, it broke. Here comes this F-105, I think, comes slamming down to the ground, smashed all over the place. And I said, "Well, there's $6 million gone." Next thing you know, he takes the next aircraft up, and he's gone. About 2 minutes later, I hear him coming back in pattern. I said, knife 2.6, knife 2.7, Roger, knife 2.7, nothing. Knife 2.6, knife 2.7, Roger, knife 2.7, nothing. About this time, I said, "Come on, Jim, tell me what's going on up here. It's knife 2.7. Roger said, they just called me the $12 million man." So I talked to him afterwards. What happened was the aircraft becomes an airfoil. I don't know if you know this, but underneath the helicopter becomes an airfoil. And they started into this rotation. What do they call it? Sync? I don't know what they call it. Anyway, it started flying. The aircraft started flying on them. They had to pickle it. Went into the ocean. So it cost them $12 million. They called him $12 million man. He came back. Anyway, we took care of that. That earned me a couple That was an interesting mission. Joint Special Operations Command medal as a result. Anyway, what can I do for you?
No, what was the reasoning? Like, why not just destroy the air? Like, why?
Well, they wanted to get him back on U.S. Well, there's a lot of money involved. As a matter of fact, Navy pilots told us, "Hey, you guys bring him out here, and you can have anything you want." Oh, you mean? What do you mean? We're going to give you these coats. We're going to give you these jackets. We're going to give all these, but in return, we want beer. We want liquor. So we put beer and liquor in the cockpits, and they give us all the. We made these trades. I didn't know this was going on. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have done it.
So this was. How much longer did you have left in Vietnam?
I had in Vietnam. Vietnam, probably. I was only there at 1 day. I was in and out. In and out 1 day.
Well,
Well,
how much
2
longer
days.
did you have left on your commitment?
Oh, commitment. I had couple 3 years left. Actually, I got out early. I got what they call Palace Chase. I got out early, out of Fort Rucker, for a variety of reasons. Anyway, one of them's personal. Anyway, I was there at Fort Rucker. We were called a speck of blue and a sea of green. This one had 25,000 or so Army personnel at Fort Rucker, Alabama. Interesting place, so to speak. They had a lot of bingo games there. I don't know if you played bingo or not, but I played bingo when I was there. Only because they were giving away an airplane. They were pulling 2 Volkswagens for a full card. And I said, well, I got to play. So they had guys in the men's room sitting on johns playing this stupid game, bingo, which I played a lot. Now, I was telling you about Palace Chase. Well, I was there and got out of the service in 1977. I think it was April 1st, 1977, I got out of the service. Anyway, in April, or prior to April 1977, I put in my papers. And I said, I want to get out of here. They said, fine, we're going to go ahead and put the paperwork through. So they did. Sure enough, I got this phone call. Colonel Denham. Ron Vickroy, yes, sir. You want to come down here to Eglin Air Force Base? Do what? Fly with the Special Forces down here. I said, nah, that's okay. Then I got this call from this guy, a buddy of mine, Dr. Major Corson, who was now squadron commander with another aircraft squadron, and they were handling what they call all of European aircraft, and he wanted me to go to Ireland and fly for him. I wanted to go to Wiesbaden, and as it turns out, even though I got a very good assignment out of Nakhon Phanom, which is Fort Rucker, it was a direct-to-duty assignment. I was selected for this by the colonel. For a variety of reasons, I didn't think it was the best for me, only because it was a desk job, basically, and I got to fly a few hours. Went to flight school, went to a couple different schools while I was at Fort Rucker. At any rate, I wasn't happy at the time. So the bottom line was, I decided I was going to get out. Then I get a call from another guy who's at the academy. He says, you want to come here and teach geography? We're going to send you to grad school. I said, no. About this time, a guy calls me and says, well, too bad, because you were going to go, your end assignment was going to be Edwards Air Force Base. I said, what are you talking about? He says, you're going to go from here to Patuxent Naval Air Station. For what? Fixed wing training. Fixed wing, you mean test flight? Yes, test training, test flight training. Mm-hmm. I would have gone to Williams Air Force Base, which is located in Arizona, I think. Williams or Shepherd, one of the two. Shepherd, I think, was in Texas. But I decided I was getting out, so I got out. I was going to go into the Air Force. I was going to go into the FBI. That's what it was. I was going to the FBI.
What in those 3 years after, after the evacuation of Saigon, how much longer did you spend overseas?
Overseas, I had about 3 months. Let me see, April. I left the 1st of July. So this was April 29th. What's that work out to be? 3 months? All of May, all of June. Two months plus.
At that, did you was it back to kind of just waiting for the next thing to happen for the last couple months?
Well, the next thing to happen was being Vientiane. That would have been the evacuation of Vientiane, but never occurred. So I headed back to overseas or headed back to the United States via leave. Came back here to see a woman, if you believe it or not. As it turns out, on the way, well, it's a long story. Anyway, I lost 5 of my friends while I was there. Five buddies out of 25 while I was there. 2 of them went down as a result of a servo failure in the aircraft, the H-53. They grounded all the aircraft at the time, but apparently they were coming up for refueling, and the thing pitched up and stayed up. They couldn't overcome it. You're talking about 3,500 pounds of force. So the second guy lost, and his was a good friend of mine, my best friend while I was there, and my next door neighbor, Jim Kays and Larry. Jim and Larry was supposed to. Larry wasn't even supposed to go. It was supposed to be me. I was supposed to be riding. I was supposed to be the piloting of that aircraft, and Jim Kays would be my co-pilot. As it turns out, Jim Kays was the pilot, Larry was the co-pilot, and they went in. They lost a blade. They went in from 25 feet. They went in 25 servicemen. So while this was happening, I'm back at the base, and they said they were going to go into this little island called Koh Tang Island, which is located off of Cambodia. And they were going to get back the USS Mayaguez. That's what they were going to do. So they launched all aircraft, and of course my buddy took off on this one aircraft, and that's when he went in through the blade. I thought they were trying to hurry things along too quickly. As a result, a great story here. Here I am on my way to San Francisco. I'm in an airplane, right? And I'm looking at this guy. He's sitting over there reading the front pages, and all I saw was helicopters, and I saw a lot of smoke up in the air. I saw a lot of fire. I said, "What is this all about?" And he says, "Oh, the United States raided Mayaguez." It said Mayaguez on the front. That scared me to death. So as soon as I landed back in, let me see, was it San Francisco? I got on the phone. I called my squadron commander, and I said, "Colonel Denham, Mr. Ron Vickroy." "Yes, sir." He said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in California." He says, "You're going to tell Jimmy Kays?" I said, "Yeah, I'll talk to his parents." He said, "Okay." He said, we went in and hit the island of Koh Tang." I said, "Yes." I said, "It was all over the news. It was all over the newspapers." He said, "Good." Anyway, that was the end of it. So I talked to another pilot, and he told me exactly what went on over there. And then I heard all the tapes whenever I get back. Basically, a long story short, I'm going to try to be quick with you now. They went in around 4 o'clock in the morning, and apparently what happened, there was a commercial tanker, I think it was a commercial ship, that actually, I think Ford was now the President of the United States at the time. I think it's 1975, 1976. Anyway, 75. So he says, this is in May of 1975, so it had to be. So let me see what happened now. Oh. So these guys, he says, the next morning, this is after my buddy goes in with an airplane, 2 of them, they threw a blade. He goes, "I want you to fly, test fly all the rest of the aircraft that are coming down here to Bangkok," because they all took off out of Bangkok. They took out of NKP, they headed down to Bangkok. I said, "Okay, I can do that. More than happy to do that." He says, "You want me to land down there?" He goes, No. I want you to go on leave. I want you to tell Mr. Kays and Mrs. Kays what happened to their son." I said, "No problem. I can do that." So while I'm in this anyway, long story short, I hop in this airplane. I head on out, and I saw this thing on board that flight back to the United States. So I asked the guys what actually happened. You ready for this? That morning, they fly down they're down in Bangkok. While they're in Bangkok, here come the U.S. Marines. They bring in this group of U.S. Marines and out of someplace in the Philippines. I can't remember the name of it anymore. Anyway, they come in out of the Philippines. They didn't tell these Marines what was going on. And they said, "We're going to put you in these aircraft." Because initially they took down security police force. They took the security police, and they said, "We're going to secure this island, Koh Tang," where they felt like intelligence reports said that they had taken the crew of the USS Mayaguez, and it was just a group of militia people from Cambodia that were on this island. So they were going to come in, they were going to pick them up. Didn't turn out that way. Well, the next morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, they took off. And they went in with these Marines now, 53s. And the 40th Air Rescue and Recovery Squadron was there to support them. And first aircraft got shot out of the air. Next aircraft was grounded. Next aircraft made it back to Cambodia. Cambodia, not Thailand, made it Cambodia, where it had to stop on the beach, get refueled. The pilot's name was Rakitis at that time. The other one that landed out in the water was a guy named Lackey. He's since passed. He had Colonel Denham on board, as a matter of fact, and one of the guys that was one of the engineers was drowned. Let me see, he had one of the engines out. The other guy that got shot down. So here they are. They're coming into this island. They're landing on east and the west coast. Now, it's shaped like an hourglass, if you can understand. It's shaped like an hourglass. Figure north to south, basically, was the orientation of this hourglass, north to south. So they're going to land on either side where the sand comes through the top to bottom. They're going to land on either side at 4 o'clock in the morning. So they did. And they told them the tide, when they say they, we're talking about the intelligence group now. They said, well, the tide will be out, therefore there's plenty of beach. Wrong. Tide was in. So tide was in. They went ahead and landed anyway. They dropped these guys off. First one got shot out of the sky, as I told you. Second one landed. And they had all these guys, and the other side landed, got shot out of the sky. This guy landed. Anyway, they wound up, the group on the ground is now, the guy's down there, his name's Bingo Shoes. He's got about 75 Marines on board. Aircraft, helicopters are now pulled out. There's 7 or 8 helicopters now. That's all that's left. I'm trying to recall now what the heck happened. Exactly, at the same time, this insertion was going on where they're landing these troops, is the 40th Air Rescue and Recovery Squadron is landing with special operations guys. They're rappelling down their lines trying to land on this civilian ship. Of course, they found out there was nobody there. They said, "Well, they're on board the island." About this time, here comes the guys with a white flag and the Cambodians. They're coming out from the mainland of Cambodia. So we want to go ahead and surrender. We want to give you your guys back or whatever the heck it was. About this time, these Marines are pinned down on the island by a full force of Cambodian regulars. They're scared to death, and I can imagine. So in the meantime, what initially turned out to be an assault group turns out to be a rescue operation. That's what it was, a rescue operation. Yeah. So this is where it gets really cool. You got some fast forward air controllers, which are jets, A7s, A10s, that are flying over the scene. They're reporting back to the Cricket, again, which is a major command and control post. They're in contact with the Pentagon. Yeah. So this guy's going so fast, though, he can't keep track of what's going on. I mean, he's only overseen for a couple minutes. Anyway, he comes over and he goes, "Okay, I want you guys to drop some gas. We want to drop gas on this island, and we're going to let these guys, and we're going to send the helicopters in." And so the forward air controllers says, "Okay, good." So they bring in these flight of F4s. They drop some gas, and about the time they had what they called midget and giant. Giant gas is tough to, violently ill for 2 weeks. Midget, you're sick for about 2 or 3 days. But you're sick enough, you start vomiting. So they decided they're going to drop this gas. "You guys got gas masks on the ground?" Bingo Shoes says, "Yeah, we got gas masks." "Okay, hook up your gas masks, we're coming in." So they come in, and they come in on a pattern east to west. East to west. The wind is blowing the other way around. Okay, it's blowing from west to east. As a result, the cloud, the poisonous gas cloud, goes out into the water. In the meantime, these helicopters, they get shot out of the sky. But this time, this guy says, next helicopter says, "I'm not going in anymore." "No, I don't blame you." But in the meantime, while this is happening, up there at Nakhon Phanom, about 7 or 8 hours away, is a guy, my boss, who's Major Undorf. Now, this guy was a Wild Weasel pilot during Vietnam. I don't know if you're familiar with Wild Weasel. Okay. Well, he was a Wild Weasel pilot during Vietnam. He's flying OV-10s. He goes, this is driving me crazy. He said, I'm going down there. I'm going down there right now. So he goes out and he starts putting this aircraft up. And this general comes out and goes, you're not going anywhere. He says, yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm going down there to support those guys in helicopters. They're good friends of mine. He says, you're not going anywhere. Yes, I am. So this general started actually helping him put his wings up. So he puts more gas in the car. He says, you're going to take somebody with you. So he goes, his call sign was Nail 69. That's important because they go down Nail 69. They land at Bangkok, yeah. They land at Utapao Air Base, the two of them, and they take off. They take off the next morning, or that morning, or about 2 or 3 hours later, 4 hours later, or something like that. And anyway, while this rescue operation is underway, he's about 20 minutes out. You hear this on tape, honest to God. I said it's honest to God truth. He goes, Cricket, Nail 68, 69, flight of 2 aircraft, OV-10s, stay position. Roger, sir, approximately X number of miles. He said, what do you want to do, basically. And he said, Roger, sir, he says, you stand by. So Nail 69, he goes, okay. So he's flying along there. Another 10 minutes goes by, and you hear this call sign. Cricket, Nail 69. Roger, 69, stand by. Roger, sir. You don't hear anything for a while. Pretty soon you just, hey, Cricket, Nail 69. And there's a bunch of colonels and generals in this aircraft. Roger, Nail 69, go ahead. State your intention. He said, I'm tired of this shit. You just come out across the road on the radio like this. I'm tired of this bullshit, yada, yada, yada. And you better get the hell, figure out what the hell's going on down there. My buddies are down there, yada, yada, yada. Okay, no, sir, no problem. About this time, he calls back to the Pentagon. They give him free. So off he goes. Nail 69, Major Undorf. He comes down with Nail 68, and they start. He calls up this Nate FastVac. He said, FastVac, this Nail 69, Roger, sir, flight evasive. He said, you got any intel for me? He says, none. And he says, I'm flying too fast. He said, Roger, sir. He says, I'm coming in now. So Nail 69 makes his turn. He says, they're shooting at me down there. He's telling his co-pilot, or his wingman. And his wingman goes, yeah, I can see that. He said, I'm going to go down there. He says, I'm see if I can mark them with smoke. So he goes down there, and sure enough, he picks up this 50 caliber machine gun, which sit right on top of the hill, spinning down the Marines, and he marks it with smoke. He pulls off to the side. He said, "How many aircraft I got out there?" Roger, sir. This is Cowboy Flight of 4 F4s. Roger's Cowboy Flight. Once you go to 360 or something like that, hold. So I go out there and hold. He goes down, makes the pass, comes back, and about this time, he clears them. He clears them in. He says, "You got my smoke, Roger. We got." Then you hear this communication between people in the same aircraft. And the navigator, or the guy in back, is saying to the guy in front who's piloting the aircraft, he says, "You got their smoke?" He says, "No, I got it. We'll find it." "Or shit, we're gonna look at it right now." "No, we'll find it." So off they go. So they get down there. He says, "You got my smoke?" He said, "Roger, sir, we have it." Well, they didn't have it, obviously, and they pickled too early. About this time, you hear this guy down there in the ground saying, or you hear the guy in Nail 68 says, "Get your heads down. Get your heads down, bingo shoes. Get your heads down, bingo shoes." So the Marines obviously stuck it out, and they just missed the Marines. He says, "Cowboy Flight, you're out of here. Next group." "Roger, sir, Dallas Flight, such and such 4. He says, "You could do any better than Cowboys?" He said, "Yes, sir, we can." He said, "Okay, I want to clear you." So they cleared them hot, and sure enough, they knocked out the 50 caliber machine gun. They came in. Then they had a C-130 Spectre ship come in, hit a 1,000-pound bomb just to do it, and then of course he took off. In the meantime, they had a couple ships blown out of the water. A couple friends of mine got the Air Force Cross put up for the Medal of Honor. Unreal. Anyway, that was the whole scene. In the meantime, I told my friends back here, my buddy's parents, what had happened to our son, Jimmy Kays. Never forget him as long as I live. He was only 20-some years old, man. Anyway, he was from right around Georgia. What's that name of the big capital? Atlanta, Georgia. That's where he's from. As a matter of fact, I visited his parents one time while I was down there. His parents were very, very concerned about why this blade came off the aircraft. He said, "Well, you sure it wasn't," I remember his father telling me, "You sure it wasn't some sort of insurgent reaction?" I said, "Nah." I said, "My understanding was it was nothing more than an aircraft accident. He says, an accident? I said, yeah. I said, now they were trying to move things along very quickly. They were, and I better keep my mouth shut. So I kept my mouth shut. But anyway, I read years later that they had followed up on their suit. They didn't go very far with it, but they claimed insurgency, and they showed it was an accident. So.
How do you talk to the parents of your best friend? And
You don't, very, very softly. Jim was my best friend. How do you talk to him? I don't know. I don't know what I said to him, to be honest with you. I can't recall. Other than, I hate to tell you this, but, Jim, my best friend. Yeah. They knew he was passed, They knew by then. I said, Ron Vickroy, his best friend. Anyway, it wasn't fun. It wasn't nothing you think about, nothing you rehearse, nothing you practice. But it's very, very bothersome to everybody concerned.
Do you consider? How do you feel about? You said you were home. Do you feel fortunate that you?
Oh sure, every day. I just thank the Lord above that I'm still here. I'm still here. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here, but for now, I'm still here. I'm on the right side of the grass. 6 feet up as opposed to 6 feet down. Anyway.
So after the Air Force, then you got out, and
I decided I was going to go back into the FBI. I was going to take advantage of my veterans points. As it turns out, they sent me a letter and said, well, you're number one on the list, but you're not part of affirmative action. You don't fit. And I said, oh, okay. So I figured I better go back to grad school. I went back to grad school at Carnegie Mellon. From there, I went to work for Ryan Holmes. And then for Ryan Holmes, I went to Crown American here in Johnstown. I came back to Johnstown. I said to my wife, I don't care if I have to come back and pump gas. I don't care if I have to take a pay cut, but we're coming back to Johnstown. So we left Florida with Ryan Holmes, came back here to Johnstown. And then I took a job after 2.5 years with UPJ, and I was up there for almost 30 as chairman. I loved it, every daggone minute of it.
What was some of the best parts of UPJ?
Best part of UPJ was the students. No question about it. No question. Every student that I had was fantastic. Was an individual. The best class that I taught was social issues while I was there. Yep. And I taught every class in the curriculum, believe me. Marketing, principles of behavior, organizational behavior. I taught consumer. I taught international marketing, consumer behavior. I taught principles of management. I taught, just about every class in the curriculum, except for accounting and finance.
So going back then to 1967, your dad tells you got to find a way to pay through school. Would you go into the academy again? Would you do everything that?
Absolutely. I wouldn't change a thing, other than losing my buddies. I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, the education that I got at the academy was bar none, top flight. Certainly, they gave it to you a nickel at a time, like I said earlier, up the butt. But without question, the best education in terms of not only the book smarts, but you had to be concerned about your emotional training. You had to be concerned about your character development. You had to be concerned about your physical training. And while I was there, I played a lot of different sports while I was there. And I'm a big sports nut to begin with.
So then today, do you tell people you're a veteran? Do you tell people what you did?
No.
Why not?
Why? I don't know. I just don't have a desire to. Nobody's asked, and until you've asked, I say nothing. Other than, I don't even think I talk about No, I don't, period. I just don't. Why? I guess most people don't say anything about it, so I don't have any desire to talk about it.
Something you did?
I did a long time ago. That was many, many years ago. Yeah. Day in my life, And like I said, I really appreciate those individuals who were on the ground over there, flew over there. Got to hand it to those guys, man. You got to really hand it to them.
These are one of my last questions is, today the word hero gets tossed around a lot. What's your definition of a hero or heroism?
What's your definition of a hero or heroism? I guess my definition of a hero are the 53,000 guys who died in Vietnam or as part of the Vietnam War. They're not coming back to the United States. And every one of them wanted to be a dad, like me. Every one of them had a woman they wanted to marry, wanted to be a dad. Anyway, that's my definition of a hero. Anybody who died as a result of war, that's the definition of a hero.
Makes sense.
So all those guys in World War II, Korea, I mean, you got a lot of people out there. World War I, Civil War, War of 1848, Mexican-American War, I guess, way back when. But anyway, World War II is what I grew up with, pretty much. World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and now Afghanistan, Iraq. Unreal. And where will we go next? That's the question. Where is it we'll go next? I don't know. All I know is that was one day in my life. I'm glad that day is over. Went through the experience. I don't expect anybody to ever go through it again. But it's nothing I would trade. The experience was fantastic.
Does it stick with you? Did you have any issues when you came home?
No. Nope, I had none. You mean talking about PTSD or something like that? No, none. Did it stick with me? Sure it has. I mean, all these years has stuck with me. All these years has stuck with me, Andy.
Good memories though?
Oh yeah, good memories. Oh yeah.
A lot of golfing.
No, a lot of. Well, we had gone down to the Bangkok, and got a bushel of what do you call them? Oysters. We had a pig roast outside. I remember that. That was a good time. And I remember bringing all these women over. And I remember a guy standing there with his chest, honest to God, drinking. He was half lit, and he goes, "I'm gonna set my chest on fire." I said, "You're nuts!" He set his chest on fire like this, and you smell that hair burning. He set his chest on fire. Of course, he had a big mat of hair up here anyway. Off camera, I'll tell you some other stuff.
That works. Okay, well, that's. I mean, do you have anything else to add? Anything we didn't cover?
No, sir. I think we've covered it all.
All right. Let me end these both.